The rain whipped across broken street lamps. A teenager stands behind a greasy counter, hands raw from dish soap, stomach hollow with hunger. In one booth sits an elderly couple, soaked and ashamed they don't have a wallet, the kind of shame people rarely speak aloud. Malik Carter looks at his tray, his only meal, saved for days, and something inside him splits. Hunger fights empathy, pride battles compassion. He makes a choice that changes everything. This isn't just a feel-good moment, not just a story of giving. What happens next raises questions you may have never considered. What does character look like when no one's watching? What kind of doors open when kindness leads? Stay with me, because this story is for anyone who's wondered if doing the right thing ever matters, and what can happen when it does. The rain had been falling for hours. Not a gentle drizzle, the kind you read about in poetry or feel nostalgic for in the quiet of your car. This was relentless, angry, like the sky itself had a score to settle with the earth. Puddles turned into miniature lakes, street lamps flickered like tired eyes, the kind of night that made most people stay in, cancel plans, order food, crawl under warm blankets, and forget the outside world existed. But not Malik James. At 16, Malik didn't have the luxury of comfort or the time to complain. Not when his mom was recovering from surgery and his little sister needed school supplies. Not when the bills came in faster than paychecks and every cent had a name on it. He worked the closing shift at Rizzo's Diner every Thursday and Friday. Tonight, like every night, he was quiet in the kitchen, hands deep in soapy water, washing dishes that clanked like distant thunder. The diner's back window, fogged with condensation, rattled with each gust of wind. He didn't notice. He was thinking about food. Not just any food, his food. The burger combo he'd been saving for all week. No snacks between classes. Tap water instead of soda. A skipped breakfast or two. 3 days of saying no to tiny pleasures so he could say yes to one moment of feeling normal. Of sitting at a table, not behind the counter. Of being a customer, not the help. The kitchen clock struck 9 p.m. Shift over. He dried his hands, pulled off his apron, and stepped into the soft, greasy glow of the diner's front room. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, the scent of grilled onions, old coffee, and mop water hung in the air. The place was mostly empty now. A few regulars nursing their third refills. An old jukebox in the corner hummed quietly, stuck on a song from the 80s. The waitress, Sheila, was wiping down tables. She looked up and nodded toward the counter. "It's ready." There it was, his tray, hot burger, golden fries, steam rising like a whisper of reward. He could almost taste the salt. The ketchup packet felt luxurious in his pocket. He took a breath, reached for it. That's when he saw them. Table 9, corner booth. Far from the door, close to the window where the rain painted streaks across the glass. An elderly couple, soaked through. The man's gray jacket clung to his frame. The woman's silver curls drooped under the weight of water. Their hands shook slightly as they cupped their mugs of coffee. No food, just coffee. They looked out of place. Not regulars, not locals. And something else. Worry. Malik's eyes, trained by months of watching customers without being noticed, saw it immediately. The silent glance between them. The way the man patted his pockets twice, then again, slower. The woman opening her purse, pulling out tissues, a coin or two, a scrap of paper. No wallet. Their clothes said money, but their body language said panic. Then came the whisper. Just loud enough. I had it when we left, the woman said, her voice trembling. I swear I did. I believe you, the man replied gently. It must have fallen out in the car. Or back at the gas station. Sheila approached them with a soft smile and the check. I'm sorry to bother y'all, but I'll need to close out your tab soon. The man looked up, eyes clouded with shame. We seem to have misplaced our wallet, he said. Is there a payphone nearby? Maybe I can call my son. Sheila shook her head. Phone's busted. Has been for weeks. He nodded, accepted it. No arguments, just quiet defeat. Malik stood frozen by the counter, tray still in hand. The fries were getting cold. The burger bun sagged slightly. The old man looked toward the door, rain still slashing sideways. He reached for his wife's hand. They were about to leave. Empty stomachs, drenched clothes, pride intact, maybe, but hope? That stayed behind. Malik didn't think. He just moved. Hey, he called out, louder than intended. All eyes turned. He stepped forward, placed his tray gently in front of them. This one's on me. The woman blinked. The man opened his mouth to speak, then closed it. Sheila raised an eyebrow. Malik didn't flinch. He slid into the booth across from them without asking. My mom says kindness is the one thing that doesn't cost anything to give, but it always comes back somehow. The woman's eyes welled with tears. She whispered, We couldn't possibly. You already did, Malik replied. You reminded me what dignity looks like. He smiled. Not for thanks, just to ease their shame. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel hungry. He didn't know their names. He didn't ask where they came from. He didn't know that everything he thought about that night, kindness, sacrifice, consequences, was about to be rewritten. Because what he also didn't know was who they really were, or what would happen when they knocked on his door the next morning, before the storm, before the old couple, before the offer that would change everything. Malik was just a kid trying to survive. He woke up every morning at 5:20, not because he had an alarm clock, but because his body had learned to do it. The cracked plastic clock beside his mattress hadn't worked in months, but his sense of responsibility? That was always on time. The room he shared with his little sister, Amina, was small. Just enough space for 2 twin beds, 1 old dresser, and a stack of secondhand books. He always woke up first. Let her sleep longer. She had school, and he didn't want her starting her day tired. Malik pulled on the same jeans he wore yesterday, and probably the day before. Faded, a little too short at the ankles, but clean. Always clean. His mom, even with her back injury, made sure laundry happened every Saturday. Sometimes Malik did it when she couldn't. Clean clothes were dignity. Downstairs, the apartment kitchen buzzed faintly. The fridge hummed like a tired old man trying to keep up. He poured himself water from the tap, skipped breakfast. Again. The milk was for Amina. The cereal, too. He scribbled a note for his mom, who had fallen asleep on the couch again, still in her nurse's scrubs. Don't forget your pills. And Amina has gym today. Then he grabbed his backpack, fraying at the seams but reliable, and stepped into the early dawn. The walk to school was 20 minutes through a neighborhood that used to be called the Oaks, back when it had trees and pride. Now it was mostly boarded-up stores, cracked sidewalks, and a liquor store on every corner. But Malik still saw it differently. Not perfect, but possible. At Booker T. Washington High, Malik was known, but not popular. Teachers respected him. Students admired him. Quiet, smart, always helping someone. He'd once fixed a teacher's car with YouTube tutorials and a borrowed wrench. He tutored younger students during lunch. He stayed behind after school to help clean up even when he didn't have detention. But none of that got him a scholarship. Not yet. He wanted to study urban development. "I want to fix broken places," he once told his English teacher. "I want kids to walk to school and not dodge potholes or broken glass." "Sounds like a dream," she said. "It is," Malik replied. "But that's where it starts, right?" Dreams, though, needed money, and Malik didn't have any. So he worked. Every Thursday and Friday night at Rizzo's diner. Sometimes weekends, too. Washing dishes, cleaning grease traps, wiping down booths after closing. The owner, a thick-necked guy named Donnie, didn't believe in praise, but he believed in hard work. "You show up on time, you get paid," he'd said on Malik's first day. "You slack, you're out." "Fair." "Fair," Malik had replied. So he showed up. On time. Every time. Rain, cold, finals week, it didn't matter. And yet, despite everything, the early mornings, the skipped meals, the aching feet, Malik never complained. Because every hour earned meant a little closer to something better. Amina's new backpack, his mom's heating bill, a college application fee he hadn't dared tell anyone he submitted. What no one saw, what Malik never said out loud, was how tired he really was. How sometimes, after the diner closed, he'd walk the long way home just to be alone. Just to breathe. Just to cry a little where no one could hear. But even then, even on the worst days, he never lost the thing his mom had given him long before she got sick. Hope. Hope that the world could be better. Hope that someone out there might notice the quiet ones. Hope that kindness mattered, even when no one said thank you. He had no idea that the storm rolling in that night wasn't just weather. It was a turning point, a test. And his whole world was about to change. The tray was still warm in Malik's hands. Grease shimmered on the burger wrapper. The fries, golden and perfectly salted, sent up tendrils of steam. It was the kind of meal people took for granted. But not Malik. Not tonight. Not after 3 days of stretching hunger thin. He had dreamed about this tray. Not because it was fancy, but because it was his. Earned. Planned. Deserved. But as he stared across the diner at the old couple, something shifted in his chest. The woman clutched her purse tighter now, her knuckles pale. The man had stopped speaking. His eyes, once dignified and proud, were now quietly scanning the exit like a soldier calculating retreat. They weren't just broke. They were embarrassed. The kind of embarrassment that doesn't raise its voice or ask for help. It just aches in silence. And Malik knew that silence all too well. He looked down at the tray. One burger. One tray. One choice. His stomach growled loudly, a sharp, rude reminder that he needed this, that this was supposed to be his moment. But something else was louder. His mother's voice, echoing in his memory. The kindest people don't always have the most to give, they just give anyway. She had said that once, when he was 9, after she gave the last of their cornbread to the woman on the bus bench. He didn't understand it then. He did now. He took a step toward their booth. The diner felt quieter with every footstep. The clatter of dishes faded, the hum of the refrigerator, the buzzing fluorescent light, the low jazz from the jukebox, it all receded behind the sound of his own heart. He reached the table. The couple looked up, startled. "Excuse me?" Malik said softly. I couldn't help overhearing the man sat straighter, eyes wary. The woman quickly brushed a strand of wet hair behind her ear. Malik set the tray down. "I'd like you to have this." The woman blinked. "Oh, sweetheart, we can't." "It's all right," Malik interrupted, not out of rudeness, but to stop her from turning it down. It's already paid for. The man looked at him for a long moment, as if trying to decipher Malik's intention, as if no one had offered him something genuine in a very long time. Then came a slight nod. "Thank you," the man said, his voice hoarse. "You don't know what this means." Malik shrugged, trying to play it cool, though his throat tightened. "I don't need to," he said. "I just know what it feels like to go without." He slid into the booth across from them, not to make it awkward, but to make them feel less alone, less like a burden, more like guests. "I'm Malik," he added. The woman smiled gently. "Elise. And this is my husband." Thomas extended a hand. Malik shook it. They sat in silence for a moment. The kind of silence that wasn't uncomfortable, just honest. The storm outside thundered on, but in that booth, the air felt a little warmer. Sheila, the waitress, came by and raised her eyebrows. Malik gave a slight nod. She quietly refilled the couple's coffee cups. Elise took a slow bite of the burger. Her eyes fluttered closed for a second, not from flavor, but relief. "Where were you two headed?" Malik asked gently. "Visiting our son," Thomas replied. "Car broke down on Route 18. Tried to find help, ended up walking farther than we should have." Elise added, "We thought we brought everything. But somewhere along the way, the wallet disappeared." Malik nodded. "Murphy's Law. When it rains, it pours, right?" Thomas chuckled. "Tonight it's doing both." They all smiled. Then, as Elise wiped her mouth delicately with a napkin, she asked, "Malik, can I ask you something?" He nodded. "Why did you do it?" Malik leaned back slightly, eyes scanning the diner. "Because I know what it's like to need something and not be able to ask," he said. "And because I guess I'd hope someone would do the same for me or my mom, if we ever needed it." Elise looked down at her hands. Thomas stared at Malik for a long beat, something unreadable in his eyes. "You're a rare young man," he finally said. Malik offered a soft laugh. "I'm just hungry and tired, like everyone else." Thomas shook his head. "No, you're something else entirely. They finished the meal slowly, no rush, no guilt, just quiet gratitude." Malik stood to leave. "Well," he said, "I should get home before the streets flood." "Will you be all right?" Elise asked. "I've walked in worse." Malik smiled. Thomas reached into his coat, then stopped himself. He had nothing to offer. No way to repay the gesture. But Malik didn't wait for that. He nodded once, then turned toward the door. And as he stepped into the rain, something felt different. He didn't feel like the kid who gave up his only meal. He felt like someone who had made the right call. And though he couldn't explain it, he had a strange feeling that this night wasn't done with him yet. Not by a long shot. The next morning started like every other. Except it didn't. Malik woke up before his body told him to. Before the usual 5:20 twitch in his spine. Before the natural alarm clock he'd trained himself to trust. Something pulled him out of sleep. A presence, a weight in the air. He blinked at the ceiling, gray with early dawn light. The rain had stopped. The quiet outside was eerie, like the storm had taken all the sound with it when it left. He sat up. Amina was still asleep, her tiny snores rising and falling like soft waves. Downstairs, the hum of the fridge was missing. Power must have gone out during the storm. No big deal, he thought. Wouldn't be the first time. He slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her. Pulled on a hoodie. Checked the pocket for the bus pass he hadn't used last night. Still there. It hit him then. He was hungrier than usual. Not just physically, but in a strange, emotional way. Like something was unfinished, unresolved. He couldn't stop replaying the moment. The way Thomas's eyes lingered. The way Elise had said, "Why did you do it?" And the way they left. They didn't even ask for a receipt. No request to borrow a phone. No attempt to explain further. When Malik had turned around at the diner door, the couple was still at the booth, heads bowed over the tray. He hadn't expected a reward. But part of him thought maybe they'd call after him. Maybe they'd say something more. But they didn't. By the time he made it home last night, soaked and exhausted, their faces were already fading into dreamlike blurs. Now, as he walked toward the kitchen, a knock shattered the silence. 3 knocks. Firm. Deliberate. Not the kind of knock that says delivery or neighbor. This was something else. His mother, still on the couch, stirred. "You expecting someone?" "No," he said quietly. He moved to the door, glanced through the peephole and froze. A black sedan, parked perfectly outside their building. Clean, polished, government-looking but not quite. A man and a woman stood on the stoop. Not police, not social services, well-dressed. The kind of well-dressed that says old money, not flash. He opened the door a crack. "Malik James?" the man asked. "Yes." "I'm Donovan Hale. This is my wife, Elise." The names hit like cold water. Thomas wasn't Thomas. Elise wasn't just Elise. Donovan continued, "We met last night." At Rizzo's, Malik stared. They looked completely different. Dry, elegant, powerful. Donovan wore a tailored navy coat, crisp and untouched by yesterday's storm. Elise stood beside him in a camel-colored wrap, hair perfectly coiffed, no trace of rain or distress. It didn't make sense. What's going on?" Malik asked, stepping outside. Donovan smiled. "We owe you an explanation." "May we come in?" His mom had now sat up fully. She recognized the formal tone. "Something wrong?" "No, ma'am," Elise said kindly. "Quite the opposite." Inside, they sat on the plastic-covered couch like royalty visiting a modest village. Malik's mother brought tea, though she had no idea why. The power blinked back on as if on cue. Donovan reached into a leather folio and pulled out a business card. Malik took it. "Hale Futures Foundation," it read. The gold lettering shimmered subtly. "You're not stranded?" Malik asked. Donovan chuckled. "Not quite. We weren't entirely honest last night, but we were truthful in one thing. We needed help. Just not the kind you assumed Elise leaned in." "We were watching." "What?" "We were in the neighborhood assessing candidates," Donovan explained, "for a program we've never offered before. We were looking for someone different, not the most educated, not the most connected, but the most genuine." Malik's head spun. "Why me?" Elise smiled. "Because everyone we asked said your name. Teachers, neighbors, even your boss at Rizzo's. They said, if anyone deserves a chance, it's Malik James." Donovan added, "So we created a scenario. One that would test character in a real moment. No cameras, no prompting. Just a decision." "The meal," Malik said slowly. "The sacrifice," Donovan confirmed. "You didn't know who we were? You didn't expect anything in return. You gave freely." Malik looked down at the business card again. His fingers trembled. "What does your foundation do?" he asked. "We build futures," Elise said softly. "And right now, we'd like to help you build yours." A silence fell over the room, thick with possibility. His mother finally spoke, her voice shaking. "What exactly are you offering, my son?" Donovan reached into his folio again. This time he pulled out a folder. Inside, documents, photos, a sealed letter, and something Malik had never seen before. a letter of intent addressed to him. "We'll explain everything," Elise said. "But first we need you to understand, this isn't a gift. It's an opportunity. One you've already earned." Malik looked up at them. His mind raced with questions. But all he could say was, "Why me?" Donovan's reply was simple. "Because you passed the test no one else knew was happening." Malik stared at the folder in Donovan's hand like it might burst into flames. He had never seen documents with so many gold seals, so many embossed headers, so many important-looking signatures. His name was on the top of several pages, printed in clean, professional font. It was overwhelming. Donovan handed it to him gently. "You don't have to read it all now. But you should know, you were never just a bystander in this story." Malik looked up. "What do you mean?" Elise exchanged a quick glance with her husband, then turned to Malik. "We've been in this neighborhood for 3 days," she said. "Not as ourselves, not as people with means, but as people who needed help. You staged all of that?" Donovan nodded. "Everything. The broken-down car, the rainstorm timing, even the missing wallet." Malik's jaw tensed. "So you lied." "We tested," Elise corrected gently. "There's a difference." He looked between them, the warmth in his chest cooling. "I didn't do it for a test," he said. "I did it because it was the right thing to do." "And that," Donovan replied, "is exactly why you passed." The room was quiet for a moment. His mother sat still on the edge of the couch, processing everything. Her eyes, rimmed with fatigue and years of sacrifice, now glistened with something else: disbelief. And maybe a spark of pride. Donovan leaned forward. "You should know the truth. The Hale Futures Foundation was started 25 years ago to identify and invest in young leaders, not based on grades or social media profiles, but character." Elise added, "We've seen resumes polished to perfection, but they don't show who you are when no one's watching." Malik shook his head slowly. "So, you dressed up as a broke couple and waited to see who'd help?" "Not quite," Donovan smiled. "We already knew your name. We'd done our research. The way you walk Mrs. Dorsey's groceries home every Wednesday. How you tutor kids who don't even go to your school. How you never miss a shift, even when you have finals." Elise opened another small folder. Inside were candid photographs. One showed Malik handing a sandwich to a homeless man outside the gas station. Another showed him cleaning up litter outside his apartment building. He blinked. "You were watching me?" "We were observing," Donovan replied. Quietly. Respectfully, but thoroughly, Malik flipped through the images. "This is weird." "I'm sure it feels that way," Elise said. "But imagine how often kindness goes unnoticed. How many acts of decency happen when there's no camera, no applause, no payoff?" Donovan leaned back. "We wanted to change that. And we believe you're the kind of person who could help us." Malik's voice was quieter now. "Help you how?" Elise smiled. "We're launching a new initiative. Community-rooted leadership. Centers built in struggling neighborhoods, but run by people who come from them. Not outsiders who mean well but don't understand the soil." Donovan added, "We don't want to be saviors. We want to be partners. And we think you, Malik, could lead the pilot project right here in your own community." He blinked. "Lead?" His mom finally found her voice. "He's 16. "We know," Elise said gently. "That's why the program includes full training, mentorship, and education. A scholarship to the school of your choice. Internships every summer. You'd learn from some of the best minds in non-profit leadership." Donovan opened a thin booklet and slid it across the coffee table. It showed an architectural rendering of a sleek, modern building. The sign above it read, "The Malik James Community Empowerment Center." Malik stared at it like it wasn't real. That's my name." "Yes," Donovan said, "because your character built it before your hands ever did." A pause. Malik tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. "This is too much." "It's exactly enough," Elise said, "because you've already done the hardest part. You've proven who you are." He sat back, his head spinning. His world, once shaped by quiet sacrifice and low expectations, was expanding too quickly to comprehend. Donovan sensed his unease. "You don't have to say yes right now. We're not here to pressure you, but we are here to honor you." Malik looked to his mom. She hadn't said much, but her eyes were locked on him now. Steady, full of something fierce. "You always said," she whispered, "that people like us don't get chances like this." She reached out and took his hand. "But maybe people like us have just been waiting for someone like you." Malik looked at the renderings, the photographs, the folder full of evidence that someone had truly seen him. And suddenly, the cold burger he gave up the night before felt like the best trade he'd ever made. He didn't know what came next, but he knew this. The test was over, and a new chapter was about to begin. The silence in the room had weight. Malik stared at the rendering again. His name in bold letters above a building he hadn't even known existed in dreams. The Malik James Community Empowerment Center. It looked like something out of a city planning pitch deck. Wide glass windows, a community garden out front, solar panels. Inside, rooms labeled job training, after-school programs, health and wellness. "This is unreal," Malik murmured. Donovan leaned forward, voice steady. "It's very real, and we'd like you to be the first to make it happen." Malik shook his head slowly, eyes still locked on the page. "I'm just a kid who washes dishes. I don't know anything about running a center. That's exactly why we'll teach you," Elise said gently. "We don't expect you to know everything. What matters is what you do when you don't." She opened another folder, this one thicker. Inside, a full-ride scholarship offer. Any university in the continental U.S. full tuition, housing, meals, books, mentorship, and travel support. "The program includes summers with us," she explained. "You'd intern at some of our top-performing centers, Newark, Memphis, St. Louis. Learn nonprofit management, budgeting, policy writing, hiring staff, working with local government, and most importantly, learning how to listen." Donovan added, "After 4 years, you'd return here as assistant director. Shadow our senior team while the center is built. 2 years after that, we'd step back." "You'd become Director." Malik blinked. "Director?" Elise nodded. "With a real salary, full health benefits, and decision-making power. It's your center, your leadership." Malik rubbed the back of his neck. He felt small, not because of the offer, but because of the scale of it. "You want to put me in charge of millions of dollars?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Donovan gave a knowing smile. "No, Malik. We want to entrust a mission to someone who already understands what it's like to need hope. Money is just a tool. Character is the foundation." His mother looked at him, eyes filled with tears that refused to fall. "I used to pray," she said quietly, "that someone would just give you a shot. Not because you're perfect, but because you've never stopped trying, even when the world forgot to notice." Malik swallowed hard. "This is a lot. Like, life-changing a lot." "Take your time," Elise said. "We don't need your answer now." We want you to understand every piece, visit our other centers, meet our team, ask questions, shadow us. Even say no if you feel it's not your calling." Malik opened the scholarship letter again. He paused at one line. "This scholarship is not awarded for need, nor for ambition, but for character observed under pressure." He thought about the meal he gave up, how hungry he'd been, how quiet his choice had been. No fanfare, no one watching, or so he thought. Then he remembered the couple's silence, their intense eyes, their polite decline. It had all been a test, not of knowledge, not of grades, of heart. Donovan stood up, stretching slightly. "You'll also receive access to a personal advisor, someone who's been through similar paths, and we'll check in with you monthly, not to interfere but to support." Elise handed him a card. "This number goes directly to me. If you ever feel lost, or unsure, or just need to talk." Malik took it, hand shaking. "What if I mess up?" he asked quietly. "You will," Elise replied with a small smile. "We all do. The point isn't perfection, it's progress and purpose." His mom reached over, placing her hand on his shoulder. "This is your moment, baby. I don't want you to say yes just to escape hard times. I want you to say yes because you believe you can lead others through them." Malik looked at the room around him, the cracked windows, the scuffed floors, the tired furniture that had held them up for years. Then he looked back at the blueprints. Clean walls, open space, natural light. A place where people like him could walk in and feel powerful. He took a deep breath. "I want to see one of your centers," he said finally. "I want to know this isn't just a pretty brochure." Donovan nodded. "We'll make that happen. And I want to talk to someone who's done this. Someone from a place like mine, not just CEOs in suits." Elise smiled. "We've got just the person." He exhaled slowly. "Okay, then maybe this isn't a dream." Donovan reached out his hand. "Welcome to the beginning of something extraordinary." And just like that, the boy who gave away his only meal stepped into a future more nourishing than he ever imagined. That night, Malik couldn't sleep. The folder sat unopened on his desk. The blueprint still stretched across the living room table, weighed down at the corners by a salt shaker and his mom's Bible. Every time he looked at it, something inside him stirred equal parts hope and fear. His mom had gone to bed early, exhausted but smiling. She hadn't smiled like that in weeks. Malak, though, was restless. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, hands behind his head, thoughts looping like an old mixtape stuck on repeat. Why me? What if I fail? What if I change? It wasn't that he didn't want the opportunity. It was that he didn't trust himself to carry it. He remembered what Jerome had said once, after Malik turned down a party to take an extra shift. "You're too good, man! One day they'll eat you alive?" At the time, Malik had laughed. But now, that warning rang louder. Would success mean losing himself? Would a suit and a title turn him into one of them? The people who came into communities like his with promises, then left with pictures and press releases? Or worse, would people stop seeing him as one of them? That was the part that scared him the most. He got up, grabbed his hoodie, and slipped out the front door without a sound. The street was quiet, damp from the earlier storm. Streetlights flickered like they were too tired to shine. He walked. Past the playground with the broken swing. Past the corner store with the always out-of-order ATM. Past the bus stop where he and Amina used to wait in the winter, huddled together, counting the minutes. This was his neighborhood. Its cracked sidewalks, rusted fences, and blinking neon signs were as familiar as his own reflection. Every worn-out detail held a memory, a scar, a lesson. Who was he to think he could change any of it? At the edge of the block, he paused at the old mural, the one painted years ago by local students. It was chipped and faded now, but the message still showed. "Rise, even if no one sees you." He ran his fingers over the cracked paint. Somewhere deep inside, he knew he wanted to rise. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because something told him that if he didn't try, no one else might. Still. He turned the corner and found himself in front of Rizzo's diner. Closed. Dark, but comforting. He walked around the side and sat on the back steps, where the kitchen door faced the alley. He had taken 1,000 breaks here, caught his breath here, cried here. It was his real office. As he sat, he heard the soft crunch of gravel behind him. He turned. Donnie, the diner owner, stood there holding 2 paper cups of coffee. "Couldn't sleep?" Donnie asked, sitting beside him. Malik took the coffee. "Something like that?" Donnie didn't press. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Malik spoke. "What if I'm not who they think I am?" Donnie raised an eyebrow. "They're offering me this program, scholarship, leadership training, a chance to build something real. But I'm just a kid who wipes ketchup off tables and takes the long way home so he doesn't cry in front of his sister." Donnie took a sip. "And?" Malik looked at him. "And I don't know if I deserve it." Donnie grunted. "Deserve's a tricky word. You think I deserve to inherit this place after my uncle passed?" "I didn't. I burned the eggs for a whole year." Malik chuckled. "But I showed up. Every day, I fixed what I broke. I asked questions. I failed quietly until I succeeded loudly. That's all any of us can do." Malik nodded slowly. Donnie added, "You know what makes you the right person?" "What?" "You're asking the questions. People who aren't ready think they already know all the answers." They sat in silence again. Then Donnie stood. "Go build something, Malik. Even if it's just belief. That's the foundation of every community worth saving." As he walked off into the shadows, Malik stared down into his coffee. It was still hot. So was his doubt. But somewhere, flickering beneath that doubt, was a quiet conviction. Maybe this wasn't about being ready. Maybe it was about being willing. And that, he could do. He walked home as the sky began to lighten, a faint blush of morning pushing away the night. By the time he reached the front door, he knew something for sure. He wasn't the same Malik who had walked into that booth at Rizzo's. And he wasn't meant to stay the same either, because maybe growth always feels like doubt first. And maybe that's how you know it's real. 18 months later, the corner of Ash and Fillmore was unrecognizable. Where once stood a half-collapsed strip mall littered with broken glass and boarded-up storefronts, now rose something bold, something bright, something hopeful. The Malik Carter Community Empowerment Center gleamed under the morning sun, like a promise kept. Glass walls reflected the sky. Inside, a buzz of life echoed down hallways. A medical clinic, a tech lab, a culinary training kitchen, job placement offices, study rooms, childcare, counseling, article. Everything the neighborhood had gone without was here now. And standing at the entrance, holding the giant red ribbon in his hand, was Malik himself. Now 20 years old, a sophomore at City State University, he wore the same hoodie he used to walk to the diner, but now his shoulders held a quiet power. Next to him, Ms. Danvers, the school librarian who used to sneak him extra Wi-Fi time after hours, wiped away a tear. "From peanut butter sandwiches to a place that serves 300 hot meals a day," she whispered. Malik smiled. "And counting." The ribbon-cutting ceremony wasn't fancy. No news vans, no podium speeches, just neighbors, elders, kids, former classmates, construction workers who now had new careers because of the training programs inside, volunteers, local teachers, and, standing silently near the back, Harold and Tessa Monroe, the couple he once fed at Rizzo's. They watched with quiet pride. The doors opened, and a flood of people streamed in. An elderly man from Malik's block asked where he could get his blood pressure checked. 2 teenagers signed up for the podcast studio program. A single mother asked if she could leave her child in the free daycare while she attended resume training. Every question had an answer. Every need had a place. That night, long after the last visitor left and the lights dimmed low, Malik stood alone in the empty lobby. His shoes echoed softly on polished tile. He walked the halls slowly, peeking into rooms. He stopped outside the job training classroom, where, earlier that day, his old friend Jerome had taught his first computer literacy session. Jerome. The same kid who used to clown around in class, who once told Malik, "Man, you're gonna save this hood or die trying." Now he was saving it too. Malik touched the wall gently. It still felt unreal. He made his way to his office. A modest space with a second-hand desk, a donated leather chair, and a framed photo of his mom laughing on the day they toured the construction site. On the wall behind his desk was a quote in gold lettering. "We don't wait for change, we become it." He sat down, opened a new folder, and began reviewing new community proposals. A night market for small vendors, a partnership with the local college, a food co-op idea from a grandmother who wanted affordable produce for her neighbors. The door creaked open. Tessa Monroe stepped inside, holding a clipboard. "Busy already?" she asked. "Always," she smiled. "We wanted to say thank you." For proving us right, Malik leaned back. "You never doubted?" Harold entered behind her, his cane tapping lightly. "Oh, we doubted plenty," he said. "But your decision that night? Giving away your only meal? That told us who you really were." They sat. "We've funded dozens of community projects," Tessa said. "But this feels different." Harold nodded. "Because you built this from within. Because you never left. And because you made others believe they could be part of it too." Malik looked at them, then down at the growing stack of proposals. "It's only the beginning." Harold leaned forward. "We're ready to help scale this. 5 more cities, same model, local leadership, deep roots, but only if you're ready to train the next Malik." Malik exhaled slowly. He thought of the diner, the moment, the sacrifice. He thought of his neighborhood, its wounds and its wisdom, and he thought of every kid who ever wondered if kindness still mattered. He nodded. "I'm ready." It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Murphy's Cafe looked almost the same as it had all those years ago. The same faded menu board, the same neon open sign flickering slightly in the corner window. But the air inside? Different. Lighter. Warmer. Full of quiet hope. Malik hadn't planned to stop by. He'd just left a site meeting at the second Carter Community Center across town. But something about the weather, the steady rain, the hum of tires on wet pavement pulled him in. Inside, Big Mike was still behind the counter, though a little grayer now, a little slower. Sandy was now the floor manager, and everything ran smoother than ever. Malik took a seat at his usual booth, just beneath the chalkboard that read, "Kindness is contagious." He was sipping coffee, quietly watching the world go by outside, when Sandy approached him with a look he hadn't seen in years, urgent, concerned, but hopeful. "Malik," she said in a low voice, "there's a family in booth 3. They remind me of someone." He followed her glance. A young Latino couple, soaked jackets, two small children sitting quietly, eyes wide and tired. The father counting change in his palm, head bowed. The mother whispering reassurances in Spanish, though her voice trembled. Malik stood slowly. He didn't need the full story. He remembered this script. He remembered being the one watching from across the diner, the one with the tray of food, the one about to change everything with a simple act. He walked over. "Hi," he said, smiling softly. "I'm Malik. Looks like you've had a rough day?" The man nodded. "Our car broke down. My cousin was going to meet us, but he's hours late. We didn't want to eat, but the kids, they were hungry." The woman added quickly, "We can clean dishes, sweep floors. Anything. We don't want charity." Malik smiled. "This isn't charity. It's community," he signaled to Sandy. "Put their meal on my tab, and bring the kids something warm." The man's eyes welled up. "Thank you. We don't know anyone here." "You do now." Malik handed him a simple business card with a gold logo and his direct number. On the back, he wrote two names, Rosa y Miguel Santos. He stayed for an hour, listening, encouraging, not prying, just offering open doors. The next morning, Rosa was enrolled in the early childhood training program at the center. Miguel started shadowing under the construction skills instructor. Their children, playing in the daycare program, laughing, learning, safe. The cycle had turned. Just like Harold once gave Malik a chance, Malik had now become the test, the invitation, the doorway for someone else. And this time, it wasn't a hidden test. It was honest, clear, full of dignity. At the center that evening, as Rosa helped organize classroom materials and Miguel guided a team of trainees repairing drywall, Malik stood by the window watching them. Sandy entered behind him. "You did it again," she whispered. Malik shook his head. "No, they did it. I just opened a door." She smiled. "Feels familiar, huh?" He nodded. "It should. Because kindness, when it's real, always comes full circle." 5 years passed. What started with a single act of generosity had grown into something no one could have predicted. The Malik Carter Center, once just an idea on blueprints, now spanned 2 additional locations across the city, with more in planning stages across neighboring states. But Malik never forgot where it all began. He still visited Murphy's Cafe every Thursday. He still remembered the smell of that untouched burger and fries. And he still carried the napkin Harold wrote on, now framed behind glass in his office, a daily reminder of who he was before everything changed. On the anniversary of the center's founding, local news outlets ran specials about its impact. They called it the Kindness Engine, a network of programs, services, and people powered by the belief that one good deed could ripple across generations. Statistics filled the reports. Over 18,000 people served, 270 small business grants issued, 63% increase in local employment, and crime rates in the area cut nearly in half. But for Malik, the numbers were never the story. It was Rosa, now leading the early childhood department. It was Miguel, teaching electrical safety to teens after work. It was the old men playing chess in the cafe's back corner, once isolated, now laughing and mentoring young boys. It was Jerome, his childhood friend, who left behind hustling and became head of the digital design program. And it was Miss Loretta, 83 years old, whose only child had passed away, but who now had a community calling her Grandma L. The center had become more than brick and glass. It had become family. One morning, Malik was invited to speak at a national non-profit summit in Chicago. He stepped onto the stage now in his late 20s, dressed sharply, but still with that same calm presence, and told the audience a story. Not about programs, not about budgets, about a boy who gave away his only meal, and how that moment changed more lives than anyone could have imagined. The audience fell silent. Some wept, others clapped slowly, deeply, as if honoring something sacred. Later, a young woman approached him. "Mr. Carter," she said quietly, "I want to do what you did, but I don't know if I'm brave enough." Malik looked at her and smiled. "Bravery isn't loud," he said. "It's quiet. It's small. It looks like giving someone else your seat, or your last dollar, or your lunch. It starts when no one is watching, and it grows when you believe that every person matters." She nodded, wiped her eyes, and walked away, changed. Back home, the center held its annual Kindness Day, a tradition inspired by Malik's diner moment. Everyone gave something that day: a ride, a meal, a skill, a hug. And on the wall near the front doors, a giant mural was unveiled. It showed Malik, age 17, handing a tray of food to an older couple. His face was tired, but kind. Behind him, in soft colors, loomed a city skyline transforming in the background. Beneath the mural, words painted in gold. It started with a meal. It became a movement. Miss Ruby, who had since passed, was honored in a new medical wing bearing her name. Her legacy lived on in every bandaged knee, every prenatal exam, every senior checkup. Harold and Tessa Monroe visited quietly that year. They didn't want press or praise. They just wanted to sit in the cafe, watch the community buzz, and know their faith in a boy had been justified. Harold said nothing. He just nodded as he looked out over the skyline, where cranes built the next center. And Tessa whispered, "He became what we hoped for and more." That night, Malik stood alone in the center's lobby, long after the lights had dimmed and the last child had gone home. He placed his hand on the mural over the boy's heart, and he whispered, "Thank you." To that boy, to that choice, to the storm that made him see clearly. Then he turned, stepped outside into the night, and walked toward the next community that needed hope. Because now he knew. Kindness was never small. It was just the beginning. Before you go, imagine this. That same 11-year-old girl, that single mother, that elderly neighbor, just one gesture could change their entire world. Malik could have kept his meal. He could have stayed silent. But he chose differently. And because of that one choice, not only did his life change, but thousands of others found hope, belonging, opportunity. If this story made you feel something, pride, warmth, maybe even a fire to act, then carry it with you. Look around. Someone you see today might need your meal, your time, your kindness, not for recognition, not for reward, but because you see them. Love is louder than fear. Kindness outlasts the storm. Character under pressure builds true legacy. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still wins. Because when we choose compassion, the world becomes more like the one we hope for. Thank you for watching. Be kind, stay brave, and let your actions ripple.